welcome to Biblically Blonde. My name is Lacey, and this is the How to Study the Bible series. In the next 8 videos, I'm going to be defining Bible study, showing you how I study the Bible, and so much more. Be sure to hit subscribe if you want to see all the videos in this series, and go to biblicallyblonde.com for awesome free Bible study tools. Now, let's get started. So the question of the hour, the question of this video, and the question that many of us have every time we open our Bible is, why does God's word sound like gibberish? Why is the Bible so hard to understand? Why, when we read, do we get so easily confused? If God wanted us all to know Him, then why is His word to us so hard to understand? Given the right tools and teachings, the Bible can be easily understood and explained. The secret is the effort that we're willing to put in to know God's word. The Bible is a book about God and His relationship with creation. If we go one step further, we learn that the Bible is many different books that were put together to tell one big story about God and His love for us. We are His creation. So when we understand that and we can see that the Bible is a book about God, it's not about us. It tells us a story about creation, and that's how we fit into it. It should be simple. Like, we should understand this. So once again, we come back to the question, why is Scripture so hard to understand? One of the main reasons why the Bible can be difficult to understand is the time and cultural difference. The Bible was written 3,000, if not more, years ago, and that's just some of the books. If you're talking about dating Genesis, it goes even farther back. And we think that culture was different 20 years ago. Like, this is crazy. The time and the era and the customs that people had and the way they spoke and the way they wrote, everything about their life is completely different than the life that we live today. It's just, there's such a huge difference. And that is where we get context. And that's why I always say context is king. Now, there's certain people like historians like myself that love this. You know, we thrive in learning about different cultures, and we thrive in learning about how people lived and how they talked to one another and everything that they did in their daily life. But some people, let's say maybe if you're more of a poetry type person, or maybe you like prophecy a little bit more, the context here in the history books are really, really hard for you to get, because this is just not something that you're used to, and it's not something you're interested in. A lot of people are not interested in learning the history about the area of Mesopotamia. Like, some people just aren't interested in that. So if you're one of those people, it makes understanding the Bible very hard, specifically books of history. And since the Bible is all history, it makes learning the entire Bible hard. Now, some books are easier than others, but the whole book was written many, many thousands of years ago. So it's just difficult. That's the first thing that I will always say, that people who have a hard time with context and knowing that time and cultural difference and putting in the effort to learn that, that's when they're going to struggle the most on Bible study. So another reason why the Bible may be hard to understand is that it's various types of literature or genres. So in the Bible, we have history books, we have prophecy books, we have poetry books, we have letters, we have, oh my goodness, everything. Of course, I'm blanking on everything, but that's just a general idea of what we have in there. And it's so much. And so I'll be fully transparent. I have a really hard time sometimes with poetry. The Psalms are not my best friend. I'm learning to enjoy them and figure them out, but I have a really hard time with that style of language because I'm very much a right-brain person. I love history books. I love the law. The law books are awesome for me because it's very plainly, I can read them and understand that, because that's how, as a historian, I like to read. Poetry, no, that's like the exact opposite for me. It's very hard. I also sometimes have a hard time with prophecy, not as much as I have with poetry, but I do have a hard time with prophecy as well, because it goes into that kind of very artistic type of language that I sometimes have a hard time understanding. Now, some people who really enjoy that, they can like live in the Psalms, or they can read the prophecy books and they'd be like, yes, I understand that completely. They really struggle with the law. There are some people out there that will read the books of like Numbers and Deuteronomy and just be like, oh my goodness, I have no idea what they just said. They'll read it over and over again and they just want to fall asleep. They don't understand it all. And so you can fall into your own kind of category here, but one of the main reasons the Bible is so hard to understand is because it's not just one genre. It's a lot of them put together to make the Bible. So don't be worried if you don't understand one or the other. We all do that. Another reason why the Bible may be hard to understand is because there's so many different translations of it. So there's 3,000 plus translations, and some people only read New King James or the Old King James, or some people only read the NIV. Some people only read the ESV or the Amplified or whatever style Bible that you read. Some people will only read that translation. And a lot of times they're struggling because they're not branching out and reading other translations. Another area that people struggle with when it comes to understanding scripture is their personal sin bias. Now, this one isn't as plain and easy to understand as, translations and time and history and all of that. This is kind of like smacking us in the face, and that is our personal sin. Now, a lot of times we don't want to admit that we have a personal sin bias, and sometimes we're not even aware that we have that personal sin bias. But if you're coming at scripture wanting it to tell you a certain thing, wanting to believe a certain thing because you already believe that, maybe because of a sin in your life, you're going to transform the scripture to say what you want it to say, or you're going to manipulate in your mind what it's actually saying to you. Now, one of the ways that I think this happens a lot, at least for me and for women, is the feminizing of text. So we will come at it with a personal sin bias of wanting all the text to speak to us as women. And the fact of the matter is, while all scripture speaks to all humans, not all scripture was made specifically for women. And so when we constantly, a lot of female Bible teachers do this, they will feminize text. Now, we can learn from all text, but that doesn't mean that I can look at a text and say, okay, this applies to me as a woman in this way. No. This applies to me as a human in this way, but it's not all text was made to be for a woman. So that is a personal sin bias because we want to come at it and say, God made this specifically for me as a woman, when no, he didn't. So that's just an example, but not to get too much into it, but whatever kind of personal sin you may struggle with in your life, you bring that to the table when you're reading scripture. This could be your view. Maybe you're a divorcee and you think divorce is completely okay because you are a divorcee. I'm divorced, so I'm not going to sit here and say that when I read the text and I read the sentences about divorce, it doesn't hit my heart. Or maybe you come at it and you have a certain sin in your life that you're not wanting to confront yet. So you will, kind of disregard certain scripture on that sin because you're just not ready to quite understand it yet, and you're not ready to walk away from it yet. Okay, so the last and my favorite reason why scripture can be hard to understand for so many of us is because we're treating it like a question and answer session with God. Okay, so what do I mean by this? This is like topical Bible times 1,000. So many people think that the Bible is a rule book or a moral guidebook or a how to live your life 101 type book. But in all actuality, the Bible is a story, and it's a story about God and his creation. And so that's how we fit into the whole mix. But it is not a question and answer. Now, yes, there are a ton, if not every answer in life is in the Bible in some format, but it's not laid out like a Q&A session. It is through knowing the entire story, start to finish, that we find the answers to life's questions. And not so much even life questions, just about, how do we respond to certain situations. Those are in the Bible in some regard, but it's not laid out for us. And in many ways, a lot of the answers that we seek in life aren't in the Bible. We have to go directly to God through prayer and through supplication to find those answers. And so when we go to the Bible and we treat it like a Q&A and we say, God, what should I do about this? Insert, whatever. God, what should I do about, this area of my life? Insert, and then we're unhappy and we don't understand the answers that's being given to us. And that's because we're treating it like a Q&A session. We took every single question that we had for God and we found the answers in the book of Proverbs, we would be very, very confused. A, because of the time and cultural difference, and also because sometimes the answers that are written out need a little bit more clarification. And we get that through Bible study, through learning the story from start to finish. So no, the Bible is not a Q&A session. Yes, we get life's answers through it, but it's through knowing God's word, allowing God to speak to us, and knowing the story start to finish. We can't just open up the Bible, look for a certain answer on something, and then close it and walk away. When we do that, we get very confused, and a lot of times we don't like the answers that's given because we simply just don't understand. Alrighty, y'all, that was the end of this video. I hope it was so helpful to you. I really think that understanding God's word and finding it to be complicated and hard to understand is the number one way that people stop studying God's word. So we need to realize what's happening and how we can confront the problem. Be sure to check out biblicallyblonde.com if you want to find more free, awesome resources. And also stay tuned for the next video in this series, How to Study the Bible. Bye, y'all.